Welcome to this video for the new players of 2 Hours One Life. Here's a few tips about the game that will make your life easier. Tip number 1. When you get born, you can only say one letter. You can say Y and N for yes and no, and your mother will often ask you what letter you want your name to start with. Don't move unless she tells you to follow her, especially if you're close to a fire, because your food bar will deplete slower. If you're hungry, say F, and she will take you in her arms to feed you. If your food bar doesn't fill up, that means the person trying to feed you is over 104 years old or a guy. Just repeat F until they understand. You will be able to use your hands to eat stuff at 3 years old, but you can be fed by being held until 5 years old, which can be useful in camps where food is hard to find and share. Tip number 2. If you spawn as an Eve and you plan on having babies, name yourself. I am Jones will name you Eve Jones. If you have a baby before naming yourself, don't name the baby, or he will only have a first name. Name yourself first. If someone in your family didn't name you or gave you only a first name, then you should ask a family member that has a full name to name your child. Anyone can name a child. You can also name an adult that has no name. No need to hold them in your arms. This means you can have 2 Eves in the same town, and one can name the other if you want to use the same last name. Tip number 3. If you don't plan on staying in a town, you just want to visit or you want to leave early, please don't keep your clothes on, or worse, die far from the clothes room. People will have to take all your clothes from your body, bring a horse cart if they don't have one clothes, and place the clothes back in the room. A lot of new players do that, and when there's a newbie wave like these days, clothes are just scattered everywhere. If you really don't have time, try to place your clothes in the closest horse cart or die in the clothes room. Tip number 4. Yums are not easy to understand as a new player. You shouldn't eat the same thing twice. As an Eve in a camp, it's not easy. You eat a wild onion, a wild garlic, etc. Then you run out of yums if you didn't cook anything. In the beginning, some Eves like to start a new life when they are out of yums because they don't want to eat food that won't give them bonus and empty the green biome of all its food. In a big town, you just take food from the shelves in the kitchen. There's often a lot of different things. How does the bonus work? Each time you eat a food you haven't eaten already in this life, a yum, you get an additional food bar called bonus. It is the sum of your level plus the bonus of the food you ate. Some food have a better bonus than others. The best foods are generally the ones that don't give a lot of pips but give a lot of bonus. This way you can eat several very good foods like meat pies, tacos, etc. and you get a very big bonus and you are able to keep playing without having to eat for a long time. The level is increased by 1 for every yum you eat, except for the very first yum that doesn't count. It also increases a lot more if you eat cravings. Cravings are a random yum that the game wants you to eat, and it can be something you already ate. It's okay, it will be a yum again. Keep in mind that the craving evolves depending on the complexity of the food you ate in your life, so if you don't want cravings to be all wild stuff, you can first eat something more advanced, then eat your wild craving. You'll see that the next craving will be more advanced too. Tip number 5. I often see new players getting confused with bowls, baskets, buckets and wells. As a new player, you'll often be taught how to farm. A basket holds 3 items. It is used to take 3 uses of soil or compost, then place on the ground. Then you have to separate the soil using a bowl. A bowl can take 1 use of soil or water, and a lot of other things, of course. You often want to take 1 soil from the pile of 3 that the basket left on the ground and place it on a hardened row to tile it again. If you planted something and you want it watered, you'll want to use a bowl, not a bucket. But the bowl can take water from a bucket. It can also take water from a shallow well, the well that has no extension. It's just a round wall of stones. The deep well, though, has a bucket extension. It's a decorative bucket. You need an extra bucket to use it. You cannot take water with a bowl from the deep well. You can then use a bowl to retrieve water from the bucket. You can also use the water from the ponds, but if you take all the water, the goose will disappear forever. There are other types of wells that work with charcoal or kerosene. They all need a bucket, so don't try to use a bowl on them. Tip number 6. Milkweed are used to make ropes, but only at the very beginning. Once you have flax, sheep and cotton, don't plant milkweed. They need a lot of soil and give you very few ropes. Plant flax as soon as you can. It's a long process, but it will give you more ropes without needing any nails. When you get spinning wheel, you can use it for cotton, but also for flax. Spinning wheel needs 2 sets of nails though, so it's not very early game and it depends on how you want to spend your iron. Tip number 7. If you see dry planted carrots, dry planted garlic, dill, and cabbage. Don't water them unless you are going to check on them to harvest them in time. They become seeds or despawn after a while, or become seeds then despawn after a while. Also, if there's no seeds left, you probably want to let them go into seeding, then harvest the seeds to store them in a bowl. Cotton despawns after an hour. If you see pickable cotton, little white balls on sticks with no leaves, don't hesitate to harvest everything and place it on the ground in little piles. Your family will be very thankful. Wheat gets eaten by birds. If you see ripe wheat, you can harvest it with a sharp stone and leave it on the stump. It will be saved. Tip number 8. Gooseberry bushes are also eaten by birds. It's not a good idea to have domestic bushes in your camp in the beginning. The wild bushes will regenerate without you doing anything, but domestic ones, once they're empty, will start dying. A darker color bush needs watering, but if you wait it too long, it can turn yellow and needs soil, then water. If it's dead, it's dead. You can just make kindling out of it. Some players add soil on the yellowberry bushes, but don't water them. This way they can water them only when they need the berries, for pies for example, and the bushes don't have to be watched. You can use a bowl on a gooseberry bush to get all the berries in it. It doesn't mean the bowl will be full, but you can add more berries from another bush by hand, if you want to make a pie, for example. Eating a gooseberry alone and a gooseberry in a bowl is a different yum. When you have a high level and you eat those two, it gives you a big bonus. Try to keep the gooseberries for when you build a good level. Tip number 9. Domestic boars are dangerous. Don't walk into the boar pen if you don't know what you're doing. There's often a complicated way of getting to a boar because people don't want the autopath to walk them into it. Also, you will probably see a fence in the right place to feed the piglet and take it in your arms without walking on the boar. On another note, you are dangerous to cats and dogs. Cats will die if they don't have a pillow near them, and dogs will die if they don't have a short shaft in their mouth. Also, they can both have several babies. Don't touch the babies unless you have food for them. If you remove all of the babies and don't feed them, not only will the babies die, but in the case of the dogs, also the mommy, because she will become old and there will be no way to save her. Tip number 10. Once you are used to the guide, it will be your best teacher. If you take something in your hand or click on something, for example a spinning wheel, you will see the how to make and how to use recipes that tell you exactly what you should do with it. Hovering on an item in a recipe will highlight it in the game too if it's close to you. If you want to look for a recipe, write / plus the word. It will look for the recipe with the closest name. If you want to check an object's recipe after you search for something else in the chat, then just type / and try again. If you want to know the recipe of an object without interacting with it, take something that cannot interact with it in your hands, then click on the object. For example, you want to click on a tanning rack that has leather on it but don't want to remove the leather from it. You take a round stone in your hands and click on the tanning rack, then check the guide. That's all for today. I hope you learned some things and it will help you in the game. If I find enough tips again, I can make another video, but this is what I think about when I remember the new players I encountered recently. Good luck and feel free to comment if you have any questions. Bye!